KTN News.
All right, so governments are getting very creative, Ken, and to bypass this dollar challenge, G2G came into play. I think it's this coming week that we will see the first, that batch start being off-taken, and they will be buying in shillings as opposed to dollars. This will be quite a relief, right?
Yes, indeed, it will be a relief. I believe they said in the next 5 days is when the product hits the market. Fuel is the lifeblood of an economy. When fuel prices go up, everything stalls, from transport to food. So for government to have a fuel strategy in place, that's commendable. Obviously, it's not just the exchange rate that makes fuel expensive, it's also the taxation. As I said, 50% of the pump price is still taxation. So yes, we might control for the exchange rate, which is a good thing, but I think we need to think long term, beyond the 6 months. Is that taxation too heavy? Is there an opportunity to reduce that so that cost of fuel comes down? So it's good to see that there's been thinking around it. We hope it provides some stability for the shilling, but also remember the Fed is continuing to raise interest rates in the US. So whatever gains we might get really on that relief might be offset by rising interest rates in the West, a capital flight. So you almost feel still that it's hard to see that situation of what they were saying of the dollar shilling going to 120. I personally don't see it. I still feel the currency is still bearish. Our projections is pointing to more bearish, but it's good to see effort such as is taking place.
I'm glad you brought out that element of risk, because in fact I was listening to the Cabinet Secretary, I think a month ago, talking to the Energy Committee for the National Assembly, and he was very positive that, the dollar, the shilling is going to strengthen against the dollar. When it comes now to starting to offset that particular debt, will that now be a concern? Because it's on the 7th month that you're supposed to offset the January bill, 8th month, February bill. Now, if this continues, what wall are we going to hit or climb?
And markets are very smart. That's the line of thinking that markets are pursuing. They know this is a temporary. We're pretty much kicking the can down the road, but at some point you'll still have to. And at that point also, the exchange rate, as I said, the Fed is going to raise interest rates, so the shilling will continue sliding. So I think markets have already internalized all these, but still the outlook, still remains for currency depreciation. Kenya is a net importer, and as long as you're a net importer, as your currency is always really on the back foot. So I think the big strategy really has to be around how do we get Kenya to be a net exporter, because exporters are the ones who are enjoying this environment, because they are receiving and being paid in dollars. So the conversation has to be around how do we make Kenya into a more export-driven strategy. I think that will work better with our currency.
Definitely. And as you've said, it impacts the economy. And talking about the economy and the cost of living, the Prime Cabinet Secretary had something to say where Salim Davdi has now advised Kenyans to tighten their belts for the next 2 years as Kenya Kwanza tackles the high cost of living. Speaking while fielding questions from legislators, Mudavadi told members of the National Assembly that there is no quick fix to the challenges facing the country.
Whether government is considering, because we have had calls for reintroduction of the consumer subsidies in maize, whether government is considering any consumption subsidies, especially the maize subsidy that was there before the election.
We also have some short-term measures to address the food security situation. The government has taken the long-term, sustainable approach of resolving the cost of living predicament. Key to this, Mr. Speaker, is the fertilizer subsidy program. During the 2022-23 short rain season, the government availed 3.1 million bags of fertilizer worth Kenya shillings 3.5 billion to improve farmers' uptake and agricultural yields.
The presentation appears too theoretical. I'm not seeing how it is going, the presentation, how it is going to practically address the Kenyan issues in the short term. Long term, we can wait to see and hope.
Ken, tighten your belt. I mean, I know I'm a scarf guy, so it's time to get my scarf houses in order. But is that being honest in terms of just saying there's no, sort of a magic bullet to the challenges we're going through, and you have to at least find a way to, withstand the kicks until it gets better?
And I don't think it's true. You need to have short-term goals, medium-term goals, and long-term goals, because all three matter. I think for most Kenyans right now, it's the cost of living. This idea of when you talk about the cost of living, the silver bullet being the fertilizer subsidies, I think we are overdoing it. We are overstating it. Yes, fertilizer is one of the components that can assist in agriculture, but the economy is so much bigger than that. Even the agriculture itself is livestock farming, there is transport and stuff. So I think this oversimplification of fertilizer being the silver bullet that will bring down the cost of living, I think first it's irritating Kenyans because people know the reason fuel is high is because of taxes. The reason your unga is high is because of taxes. So you might even have those fuel fertilizer subsidies, but the cost of everything else is going up and eroding those gains. So I think they need to talk about that fertilizer as one element of a multi-pronged strategy. But I think the biggest part has to be on consumer taxes. When you're burdening consumers with a lot of taxes from airtime to credit to sodas that's what makes the cost of living so important. That's why I keep referring to that tax policy that is less on consumption and really more on the progressive side.
Okay.
I think that's my take on it. Yeah.
All right, definitely very important. Taxation, and I heard the president talking today saying they are sorting some of the taxation issues on gas, for example.
Correct.
That has been mentioned. What are you hoping in this coming budget that some of the key pinpoints on streamlining our taxation? What are the low-hanging fruits that could offer reprieve to Kenyans?
I think first is to look at the basket of consumption, what we consider the everyday items for a Kenyan to survive. And we need to ring-fence them and say these ones we need to be very careful, because when you touch them, you touch productivity, especially fuel. When fuel prices go up, and half of it is because of taxes, you make everything stop. So I'd like to see, they said a new tax policy will come out in June. For them to really be able to say, we are moving away from these heavy consumption taxes and looking in other areas where we can raise revenue. I think for me, if we can make that shift, not only can Kenya raise more revenue, but we can provide reprieve, particularly for the people at the bottom who are disproportionately hurt the most when your salt prices go up.
I know.
Yeah.
I had to bring out that salt situation. Some people, their whole lifestyle, they've never seen this price of salt change. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, salt is going up. What exactly is happening here? But what a discussion we've had of a myriad of issues. Ken, what are you listening to this weekend? I know it's not Gangster's Paradise due to the G2G story. What are you listening to?
I'll be listening to just the voice of peace.
The voice of peace?
Yes. I want to have a peaceful weekend.
That's beautiful. Thank you very much, Ken Gishinga,
Yes.
lead economist, Mentoria Economics, giving us the ins and outs in some of the biggest stories for this week. What a journey we've had this week, tackling different issues. Remember Business Today. Monday, we tackle finance and banking. Tuesday, we tackle tourism and technology. Wednesday, MSMEs, small businesses. Thursday, we're talking about energy. At the same time, agriculture. And Friday, we have Biz Chat. Basically, that's been our week. And thank you for joining with us through this week. My name is Noki Kimboy. Enjoy the rest of the viewing and have a blessed weekend.